Good afternoon. I'm Delit. I love cross stitching and I want to share that love with you. Today I have the magazine Anna to share with you. This is a German magazine, but it's in English, so we can read it. I only have 2 issues of the magazine to show you. I keep my Anna magazines in this, which is like for a scrapbook type thing, because it's too big to fit in my page protectors. It's bigger than just the American magazines that I have. This is a 21-year-old issue here from June 2002. So it's not just cross stitch in here. It has crochet and knitting, and then some other kinds of crafts, different ones. Sometimes a needle art type craft, sometimes a yarn or thread craft. Like I've seen, there's one of these has bobbin lace in it, but sometimes nothing to do with that, like decoupage. So it has a variety of different crafts in it. We will look at the cross stitch, and then I might just show you a couple of the other type of craft projects just to give you a feel for the type they have. Let's look at the designs on the cover of this magazine. So this is the cross stitch on the cover, the butterflies, which are really cute. And they've shown a pillow, they've shown a tablecloth, and they also have napkin rings, which you could probably cross stitch or you could bead. And I can't remember if it's beading or cross stitch. So as soon as you open this issue, and they did change kind of how they structured the magazine, but in 2002, as soon as you opened the design, you have like your table of contents over here, and you start right into the first project, which is on the cover. So these are cross-stitch designs in here. I think all of this is cross-stitch. Then you have your crochet and knitting. And this is actually embroidery. I said cross-stitch, but they do have some beautiful embroidery. I forgot about the embroidery patterns. Something to just point out about Anna that's different from the other magazines I've shown you is that they have a pull-out section in the middle of the magazine that has a lot of the designs on it. So it has helpful information like about your knitting needles and crochet hooks. And it doesn't just give you the British equivalent for what the German sizes are, but they also have the American equivalent, which is very nice for us. For me, and those of you who are American, or use those measurements. And for the rest of you, I don't know. I guess the British equivalent is the other one, the metric. Oh, they have the metric, and then they have the British, and then oh, who knew? There are crochet hooks that have the metric, American, and then British have a whole different size that they use. I don't know if I'd ever thought about that. Anyhow, and then some of us are not experts at things like crochet and knitting, so having the diagrams that show you how to do the stitches you're going to need to know how to do in the magazine is very helpful, along with instructions that explain the diagrams for those of us who are only not as much a visual learner as some of the rest of you. They have, for instance, in here, the embroidery pattern for the tablecloth I showed you is sorry, got it upside down. It's like an iron-on. It doesn't help that much to see these black and white patterns. There's a lot of cross-stitch patterns in here. And they include diagrams of how to do those stitches in this section, which I've never taken out, which tells you I haven't done any of the designs in this magazine. Anyhow, there's a whole lot of that in here. The knitting and crochet obviously is all in the written instructions. So if you look at how they give the instructions, I'm going to go over a couple of things like that with you before we look at the rest of the designs. They have a difficulty level, and these butterflies are 1 star. So they're one of the easiest things to stitch in the magazine. So there's your little difficulty level. And so some of the other projects have more stars, so that someone who wants a more challenging project can pick something more challenging. And if they have, like their daughter wants to do, or their son, my nephew informed me when I brought crochet materials for his sister, not sure she's interested in crochet. He said, I want to learn how to knit. I don't know how to knit, so I can't help him with that. But it was good for me to remember that it's not just girls who might want to try this sort of thing. But anyhow, your daughter or your son, or grandson or granddaughter, can do something simpler, like butterflies, make themselves a pillow to go on their bed. So they give you the information, like the materials and stuff. It's all kind of like in a paragraph. You kind of have to read through it to see what you need. And they don't necessarily, they aren't as specific in some of the guidelines as you might be used to if you haven't used a European magazine. Maybe like an older American magazine from the early part of the 20th century or the 19th century, something much older, where they just tell you need fabric and it needs to be this big, or get fabric the size of your table, which makes sense. So this is like one ready-made center cloth in white, and then they just tell you how big, with 40 Aida squares. So that's the sort of thing that they maybe have or had in Germany, that you could buy a great big piece of cloth like this, and it has parts of it have like a square that's Aida, and then the other part is just like regular cloth. So you just stitch a design in each of the squares, and the squares go all over the cloth, which lets them stitch the center part, right? And then along the edge, they stitch these, and that's why you have the space, because in between, I wish you could see it. I don't think it will come through on camera, but I'll put it up really close. How the fabric is Aida cloth and then regular cloth. I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't come through on the video, and sometimes it does. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and see if you can see that. And then they give you the colors. You need these colors, and they tell you the colors, how many spirals you need. I don't know if that's the same as skeins, or if their floss comes like on a spool, but they say spiral. So I don't know if spiral is skein or spool, or some other way that they get their floss in Germany. They have the names of the colors, but they also have like numbers, and that match the symbols. Here there are 11 different colors. It says that it's Madeira floss is what they have here, which is something you can get in Europe. I don't know how hard or easy that is to get in the US, or if you can find a chart that shows you the equivalents. Otherwise, I think you just look at the picture and pick out colors that you want to use. It's the easiest level of pattern, and that shouldn't be too hard. So here are So I just wanted you to see that the instructions are a little bit different from what you might be used to. You just kind of have to do your best at figuring them out. Before we go ahead and look through everything, I thought I'd show you this nice picture on the back of the magazine. It's not an advertisement. I don't know if any of you remember having pillows like this that have this little, it's like an envelope kind of pillow. And maybe there was a manufacturer over there that made this kind of pillow that you could buy your Aida cloth already like this, or you buy the pillow you want, and then you sew this or attach it to the pillow once you've stitched the design. So, they do have some full color charts for cross stitch in the magazine that are not in the pull-out section, but a lot of the designs are in the pull-out section, so it's kind of a combination. Let me show you the different projects there are besides the cute butterfly. That's one where you would need to be able to sew because the tablecloth has this border. I mean, you wouldn't need to be able to sew, but to make it like this, they've sewn a yellow border around the tablecloth. You could do it without the yellow border and just the white tablecloth. The same thing with the pillow. They've sewn a yellow piece of fabric onto their design, but you could just make the pillow on the white fabric or whatever color you picked. The same with the napkin rings. It's now, I mean, easy sewing to do these things, but still, they've sewn with fabric to do the napkin ring, and it does look like cross stitch there. It looks pretty stiff. And so it's possible if you look at the instructions that you could use like plastic canvas to make those butterflies, to make them stiff instead of fabric. Or you could, well, there's lots of possibilities. Okay, so here are some of our other designs. This one is, I don't know that it has a name, but it's more butterflies with flowers, and I think it's gorgeous. Curtain. What a great idea. So the difficulty level is still 1 star for it was different things are different stars. The curtain though is a 2-star difficulty level. Partly it's just a much larger project to take on to do all of that versus the tablecloth was less stitching, I think. But so then again, they give you your colors, but they're Madeira floss. So if you live in Europe, you can just grab your Madeira floss. If you don't, you have to go find the colors that you want to use for your pattern. They've taken like the poppy flower and shown how you can make a pillow from just one of the flowers. So you wouldn't have to choose the poppy. You could choose something else in the design to make a pillow. They've taken some of the smaller flowers to make like a little sachet, a little bag that you could, I don't know if it can't be a cell phone, but it's something. Oh, seed packets. Here they've made a beautiful ribbon. It seems like a lot of work to make that ribbon border, but I guess you could have a project that you wanted to make that for. But it's some of the flowers from the curtain design. And maybe kind of the idea that the inspiration for the design comes from maybe a seed packet or the actual flowers, depending on, you can get your inspiration from a lot of places. And the pillow they point out is a difficulty level of 2, but some of the other projects they just have at a 1-star difficulty level, like the bag, because that would be a lot easier to sew, the 2 bags. I don't know about the ribbon, what they say about that. Here is the embroidery pattern. This has butterflies and flowers, but instead of cross stitch, there's a lot of like satin stitch and long stitch. The more common embroidery stitches, I think. Again, they have your difficulty levels, which is just a 2-star. It's really beautiful, but not really difficult to make to have something really beautiful. And then you use the iron-ons that I showed you onto the fabric. And they just tell you what kind of fabric to get. And I guess it is something that you can get from Zweigart, the people that make cross-stitch fabric. So maybe it is an even weave. But you wouldn't need even weave to do embroidery. This is a runner that's kind of based off of the same thing. It's incredible. I really love this. I haven't gotten the fabric or ironed it on or started stitching it. Here's another beautiful floral pattern. And here they have made a beautiful curtain. And then they've taken the different flowers and made napkins, which I think is a great idea. I'm very tempted. There are so many good patterns for napkins. It's hard for me to settle on the one that I want to do. So I started trying to do some embroidery, not cross stitch, embroidery napkins for my friend, and they're in a box somewhere. I need to work on it more. I just put them up. This is a table runner. Look how beautiful. Um, they remind you of basic things like cut your fabric on the grain and different things when you get ready to make your different projects. I am actually going to skip some of the projects. This is not cross stitch anyhow. So But here's some more cross stitch. These are beautiful wreaths that you can cross stitch, and I would have a hard time picking one. They look like they represent the 4 different seasons. Um, I really love the winter wreath, the last one that I showed you. I like all of them, but maybe if I had to pick, I would pick the one with the poinsettias. It was really pretty. But I do think it would be nice to stitch all 4. They would be pretty displayed together, or you could change them with the season. Here's where they give you all your information as to all the colors that you're going to need, and instructions. It looks like they do have like some metallic flosses that you use in here. So here's more cross stitch, and you'll recognize this from the back of the magazine. I couldn't remember if I had done a close-up on that. This is really pretty how they've done the edge. So they have a combination of crafts here. We have our cross stitch, but it's about roses is what this section is. So they also have this decoupage clock that you can make. So they have the pattern for it or instructions in the magazine. Here's the designs. And then they actually gave the floss colors over here. So they also made a tablecloth. And they, to go along with that, have this picture that you can do. I guess I showed you the bottom part of the tablecloth. This was the center. This is around the edge. I'm not sure if I like that part. I really like the top part. But maybe I would like the bottom part just by changing the color they used. I think I'm not crazy about the color. But maybe if I changed it to like a shade of green or something, I would like it better. So then we have some of our like crochet projects and knitting. Maybe that's crochet. That's knitting. Which includes like lots of instructions and showing you how to put things together. And I am going to show a couple of those. I love how they show you what it should look like. and how to achieve what you need to do to make it look that way. Somebody who's done this a lot maybe doesn't need all of that, but somebody who's just first doing something, if you don't have someone there to help you and say, this is crooked, you made a mistake, you skipped a stitch, it helps to see what it's supposed to be to know if you're doing it right. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea how you do this or why you do this. I'm just showing you because I think it's interesting. Again, how to put together a sweater. And all kinds of interesting instructions about it. This is where they tell you all the information you need to know about the magazine. In the middle of the magazine, I guess they didn't think it was too important for you to really know any of it. They just put it in there somewhere. But that's where you have addresses for suppliers, for like floss that you might want to get, phone numbers and things, and who actually puts the magazine together. I'm going to show you the decoupage section in case you've never done decoupage. This was really popular back in the 80s when I was growing up. And they put it on all kinds of things, including candles and boxes and lots of ideas about how to do it. So you buy a blind. This has been put on a blind that you can have in your house. I would never think to put decoupage on a blind. That wouldn't occur to me. But anyhow, yeah, so they just show all these different ideas of how to do it. And notice sometimes in my videos you can't hear what I say when my face is behind a magazine, and sometimes you can. I don't know if you heard me say all of that, but just they're just giving you ideas of all the different ways you can decoupage or use that one design. So these are actually, I believe, knitted, even though I thought that it was crochet. It's knitting. So a very sophisticated look, and it's 21 years old. I don't know a lot about fashion, but I think you could still wear those pretty sweaters. I really liked them. And so just like in the other instructions I showed you, they give you a lot of instructions. So they have several different sweaters to knit. And I thought some were crochet, and then I'd be like, oh, it's actually knitting. For me, like maybe 6 different ones. I did want to show you this. This is crochet. This is, I think, filet crochet. I'm trying to not show you the filet pattern because of the copyright ideas. Look at how pretty that makes that tablecloth. I also wanted to show it because the way that the filet crochet pattern looks, you could treat it like a cross-stitch design, and instead of crocheting this butterfly, you could stitch it. Just the butterfly part. I mean, you got a piece of fabric. You use this design, which I'm not showing you, but it's a butterfly with a couple of little decorative things on either side, like in the crochet pattern. You would just pick the colors you wanted and make a cute butterfly. They have this design here for a village. I've noticed a lot of British and American magazines have these little village scenes that you can stitch, or you can get booklets, or they're in books, different books, these cute little village scenes. But it's like an American scene or a British scene, and this is a European scene. So if you really like stitching villages, you might enjoy this, or if you had spent time in Germany or just like this design. It has the different tools represented under each building, and But I love the trees. They're really cute. Try and go in a little closer. Here's another cross stitch design. I wasn't as crazy about it. I don't exactly understand. It says popular craft potter. So this goes along with the village theme? I don't know. So these are the different tools that you use to make pottery. The flowers are just decorative. And then, yeah, they look like they could be the tools that a potter makes. Here you have your wheel. Those of you who do pottery would know. I've never done it, although it looks really awesome. One of the last, it's the only one where they have the design in full color. On the other side of this, you have a regular cross stitch chart in full color. Um, they're telling you to get casual linen to make this. It's not a very difficult chart. I cannot see where they say the thread color. Oh, anchor embroidery floss. And then they have the numbers for coats embroidery floss. Instead of Madeira, here you have one in anchor.